I see. Electron prison. A prison of electrons. They're wiring me up. I feel like an undercover narcotics agent. For 3 years, I was the flute player of the village. That's how I got into the hierarchy. And I played whenever the old men moved their bodies in the processions. I had to play those songs. "14, 20 hours at a time. I have a row of flutes along my belt. When one gets full of spit, stick it in, have the other one ready before the other one is dry. Marching, marching with the drummer in front of me. I had the drum on his back and another guy following. So I was able to see over 50 public ceremonies a year for 3 years in a row. That's why I got the credential in the village that I did, by being a servant. It was a high position, but the lowest of the high positions. Had nothing to do with being a chief, but it had everything to do with about becoming a chief. So that chief stuff, it's a lot of noise without the people. That shaman stuff is zero. Shamans are nothing. They're just a bunch of spirit mechanics. And without the people and without the society they serve, they're just a bunch of egomaniacs. In other words, they would be criminals if they did not have the shamanism. They would not be healers, they would be destroyers. Because when they get that power, it's useless without the people. Useless without the brother and the sister. Useless without the grandma and the grandpa. Useless without the children. Useless without the ancestors. Useless without the unborn. Useless without nature. And everything we do in the village comes from nature. It doesn't come from the people. It comes for the people, from the people, in the sense that nature is everything. So your own nature is, like I saw a lot of guys trying to kill the yellow jackets today. And it's very interesting. I was amazed at the fear of this thing to sting. Like Malcolm here, he's get an allergic reaction to these animals. And yet I didn't see him running around trying to kill them too much, you know. Pretty much sitting here. And I was thinking, in our village, whenever we have a meeting, or we do any ritual, when the animals come, we're suspicious that they might be our ancestors' eyeballs. And so like a hornet might be the eyes of the sun. Like the bees, we call it the eyes of our father, the sun. So might be coming down here to listen in on our meeting. And then they take the message back to the other world. The June bugs, you know, you guys, I think you must have June bugs here. You must have them. In our village, this is our favorite animal. These are called the eye of the old man. That's our old grandpas come visit. You know how they are? And then they hit the wall. And you know how they go? It's like flying Volkswagen. And then you catch one, it goes. For the little kids, they keep them on their shirts. And we have in the jungle, in the, you call it rainforest, we have some that are iridescent. Gold, blue, purple, immensely delicious colors. And the little kids will trade 10 black ones for one iridescent one. So they're like cars in a lot. And the kids put them on their shirts and they sleep with them while they're, you know, they only live for so long. And they don't have to eat so much because they're just there to breed and make new larvae. And the larva is what eats. And the beetle just flies and has fun like an adolescent. And shines and shimmers. And so that shimmering one that shimmers, the June bug, that's the one everyone prizes, is it shimmers. So they tie little threads around their helmet. You know how they have a little helmet? You ever see the little helmet? And they fly them like airplanes. They throw them up in the air. Like that. And the iridescent one, when they fly, they're so beautiful in the sun. So the kids, they sleep with them every night. The little kids, they sleep and they say, oh, you hear one go bzz, they kind of look at you, you know. And they growl and they hiss. And everybody loves the sound of the little kids with their June bugs in the bed. Going bzz, and they take great care not to roll in them. And in the morning, there's a brisk trading in June bugs. And this guy said, oh, I got an iridescent one. I'll give you give me 10 of those, 12 of those black ones, I'll give you one of my iridescent ones. They trade, and he takes 10 and he trades it for another iridescent. He's got an iridescent and 2 black ones. Brisk trading in the beauty. Since a little kid that has to learn about beauty. Beauty is everything. Now beauty, I'm not talking about beauty like just visual beauty, but beauty in the movement, beauty in all things. You can tell about initiation from the way things walk and the way things move. You get to be the adolescent way. They give lessons on how to walk and how to get the strut and how to be appropriately disdainful. When you're a little child, everybody loved at you. Big pot bellies from worms, tapeworms, roundworms, malnutrition. They're running around with these smiling faces and their little cheeks like little melons, you know, and they rub up against you and they run around little herds in the village fishing, making lines out of horsetail lines and just doing all kinds of things, activity, constant activity. And they come and they bring strings of fish to you and say, Martin, look at that caught. You want this one? And they give them to you. Crabs, little things. They run around shimmering and shining, their fat little faces, happy to see the life again every day. And the little girls are weaving little long leaves. Their mothers are weaving those beautiful cloths that they wear. But the little girls are weaving the little ones. And they just have their own little tribe, the little boys and little girls. They run around together, have their own tribe. Everybody else is working. But this sad, horrible day comes when you have to become adolescent because you can't run in the little tribes no more because soon you'll be to be yoked underneath the firewood. Soon you'll be yoked underneath the big water jars and the grinding of corn if you're a girl. And the men have to carry the wood and the avocados and the corn. There's no trucks, and they have no horses. Life is difficult, as it is for us here. Here, the spiritual load is so much greater than in the village. The spirit load is huge here, so you men are very brave men. And I'll be here ragging all day and yesterday, but I commend you. You're very brave men to sit in front of me and listen to my poor tales, my pitiful tales that I bring to you from another land to make you sigh and groan. But I don't try to bring you despair. I try to bring you hope, because in those bones is the memory of all these things I talk about, and that's why you sigh. You don't sigh because you ain't got it. You sigh because it's there and you can't grab it. And I want you to be able to grab it. Otherwise, I wouldn't sit all my time pounding on these things. Because I've seen it with my own eyes, smelt it with my own breath, and ingested it in my belly and went through it and experienced it. So I know it can happen in other places because it used to happen in all the villages of the world. The indigenosity is what I'm talking about. The indigenosity of your bones. It doesn't matter whether you're a Celt by nature, by background, or you're Slavic, or you're from Asia, or you're from Polynesia, or Africa, or you're Teutonic, whatever, somewhere along the line in your bone, the indigenosity of the ancient initiation rite is in your blood. But when you try to do it without authenticity, you come up with the mad dog syndrome. You know what that is? It's like the Texans when they come to New Mexico. They all want to be like New Mexicans, you know, and they're all in your face all the time. They're big, tall guys with horns on their cars and things, and big hat looks like an ant with a potato chip, you know, walking. And so, you know how it is, an ant with a potato chip, it's a big hat. And so here come the potato chips, we used to say. And so, the point is that when you have a wolf or a wild animal, it has a natural law inside its body and the ecosystem. It knows how to judge its calories, whether it's going to eat a rabbit or a mouse, or whether it's going to team together and hunt alone. But when a dog that's been domesticated for so many centuries decides to become a wolf and gets in a pack, it don't know how to act. And it starts killing everything, and it doesn't even eat half of it. And then they start fighting amongst themselves and killing each other and hurting each other. We have a poodle, a German shepherd, and a Weimaraner all running out there in the wild. And they starve to death, even though there's plenty of food. Because they don't know the old way, but they can smell it. It's there somewhere. They want so bad to be the wolf, to be the fox, to be the coyote, to be the natural being. Just like the modern people, they desire to get rid of some of that domesticity and get back to the natural movement. But natural movement does not mean simply wild, arbitrary existence. There are rules that are inside the nature. And so the thing you have to get close to in the first place is your nature, your own nature in relation to nature. So this is what initiation into adolescence is about, because when you become a young guy like this character right here, he's been staring all week, you know. He's a good guy, all right? Like this guy, or like this guy. And where were those guys who were punching it up today? Yeah, these guys, all these guys around. You can see their eyes. What happens is the indigenosity, their nature, is all of a sudden kicking in at the age 12 and 13, 14. And they can smell that air. And that old thing, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to jump off the Soto Falls, you know. I'm going to go swing from a tree. I'm going to go hunt this track. I'm going to smell the smell of beautiful women, and I'm going to do magnificent things, and they're going to see me shine, and they're all going to lay down in front of me, and I'm going to throw them on my saddle and take them home. You know? I'm going to do all these things right away, right now. You see? And I'm going to get drunk while I'm at it, and I'm going to give, you know, the grandiosity is immense. And where we come from, that grandiosity is necessary. This is nothing we squash. All the women, the old women come out and they say, my beautiful shimmering boys. They see them walking in the street and they're strutting around. You have to have a walk. You know, without a walk, who are you? You know what I mean? You gotta have a walk. You have not much to say, but you sure have a walk. You have a language. The young girls walk in the street and they drag their shawls. These shawls take weeks and weeks to weave. The men's clothing takes weeks and weeks to weave. And the men tie their sashes so they drag in the dirt. The young men, the adolescents. And the girls drag their shawls. They're so long and luxurious because the major women, they just hang by their knees. But the girls have theirs dragging in the dust so far like a tail, saying, I have so much richness and so much shimmer. I don't care if it gets muddy. I don't give a damn if someone steps on it. And I hope you do, because you might be a boy that I like. And the boys drag their sashes in the ground to say, I have so much richness inside me that I can afford to drag my sash in the dirt, which they cannot. They know nobody is that rich in the village, because it's very difficult to have these things. So that shimmer, that shine, that grandiosity, when it's squashed down, then where does it go? Where does it go? Huh? What is it? Well, yeah, it can go there, but it can go to a lot of things. It can go into religion, it can go into all kinds of technocratic things, it can go into this and it can go into that. But it's got to go somewhere. And it lives. It does not dead in you, or you wouldn't be sitting in this room. It's alive. So the indigenous part of us all has an indigenous person. Not one of us doesn't have that indigenous person. But the problem with our indigenous person, however old or ancient we're connected or disconnected from that, it's there and it's weeping somewhere in the slum of your heart or on a reservation in your body somewhere. Because we believe the human body, you know, like the Christians, I believe they told us that they said that the human body was made in the image of God. Well, we have the idea that the body was made in the image of the earth. And the earth is everywhere. We have lightning in our nervous system. The blood is all the rivers. Our lungs are the windy caves. We don't even have a word for wind. We have to describe the breathing of the earth, the breathing of oceans, the breathing of plains, the breathing of caves. We don't have one word for wind. It just depends what's breathing. Because everything is alive to us. We don't have no dead things. There's no even a word for a dead thing. Even the dead aren't dead. So the breath and the belly, the intestines, well, we're talking about the intestine. To us, the intestine is the Milky Way in the sky. So you have a belly full of stars. Imagine you're cruising the village with a belly full of stars. And then your breath is the breath of oceans. And your eyes, one is the morning star and one is the sun. Yeah? Everything. Volcanoes. Your whole body is the earth. Your body is the earth. And where is the indigenous person in that earth? It's in a reservation somewhere. In a reservation your mind or the society put it in. So your soul is a refugee or a fugitive, hiding somewhere in your body. Somewhere in this body of this earth, like the Arapahoes are in Wyoming, and the Navajos are stuck on their res, everybody's stuck on their res, all the provincial reservations in Canada or in Brazil, or in Papua New Guinea, or wherever you want to call it. All the indigenous peoples are put in these places because they're in the way of, quote, civilization. And yet our so-called civilized souls desire to be indigenous and find their natures, which is what we're talking about here with adolescent, because when the adolescent come along, first thing it wants is to find its nature. It can smell its nature, that hormonal surge. It's back to the nature and back to the indigenous soul they originally had. But in your body and my body, perhaps it's banished to a part of a reservation in the body. Some place it's in there. And it's waiting and it's weeping. Some of them are angry. If it's been recently disconnected, it's angry. If it's been anciently disconnected, it's weeping. If it's been disconnected for a long, long time, it's starving. And emaciated and needs food, spirit food, ritual food, life food. And it smells a little bit of that food, like here in a place like this, or in some ritual, or in some speech, or in some poem, or in some place, and it comes creeping out of its reservation, very patiently and tenuously, cautiously, scared, afraid, embarrassed, to say, oh, I smell my old food. I smell my old food. I smell men together in one place, like the old days. You smell it, and it starts creeping out, sticking its little head out of its cocoon. And that's what I see here happening today. And I see it happening last night, and I'm sure it's going to continue. And I'm hoping for that. Because we can't say, oh, it's just people that, you know, like they said, some guys here actually, they say, well, what the hell does any old Mayan custom from a backward village in Guatemala have to do with us in modern society? And I said, absolutely nothing. And that's the point. What has to do is just the part of you that is in an indigenous village somewhere inside your body that's still alive and among your children, because every time your children or ourselves as young people start to feel that surge of beauty and hope and wonder and change and possibility that comes when you become a teenage type person, that is a hailing back to those days, a hailing back in time to create the future, because the young are not about the old. The young are about what's coming up. And it's always mystified the hell out of me why the young are pushed in front of us as cannon fodder to preserve what's here, whereas in our village the old go first and the youth are protected by them. And then the youth, when they become a young warrior, they protect the elders. But until their bones are strong enough, they can't do that. So what I'm trying to point out here in my own crude way is just that the beauty that shines in each of the individual is not a beauty that shines because I want my milk. Martin, I need a healing. You know, not that voice. You know, everybody got Martin, I need a healing. You know, but you know how it goes. You be in the ritual and something. Martin, I need a healing. I said, what's wrong? I said, I spent too much money. I need a healing. I said, well, I got things. Oh, get away. Your leg isn't broken? He said, no, well, then go fix somebody else. You fix somebody. You spent too much money. It means you got a lot of money that you can borrow. You got credit. We ain't got it. So the point is the screaming voice inside. The screaming voice inside that's coming along. This thing you're looking for, a beauty. And this beauty is something that has to be gotten in with the nature, so that you have your walk, you have your talk, you have your voice, you have your song, you have your tail wagging behind you. You know, if you ever watch me walk, it look like I got a tail. You can see my tail, but the medicine man can see my tail. They know exactly how my tail is. Because one part of my body gets to where the other part is before it gets to it, and that's when you get the fifth leg, you know. You know? You know? You know how it is. Oh, with the little hummingbird, when you see me like that. Eating sugar and fighting with my friends, like hummingbirds do. Shimmer and shine. That's the adolescent beauty that's jumping around. So you jump over adolescent and you don't get initiated. When I say initiate, I hate this word initiation, by the way. It disgusts me. I don't like it, but I got no other word to use for you. So I could use the Indian word and everybody say, what is he saying? Initiation. What is it? What is it? What is the word? There's 5. For 5 different initiations. The first one is no kachihab. No kachihab, which means to become a rain boy for the men. To become a rain boy. And what do you mean a rain boy? Rain that come in the sky. In other words, you're a little child on the earth. You're called a flower, you're called a sprout. And then to become a rain man, to become a rain boy, you have to become the thing that waters those flowers. And waters the corn, and waters the thing that feed the people. And so the lightning comes, the whirlwinds come, the storms come, the rain comes, the 1-foot rain, rabbit hair rain, dog hair rain, all these different rains that we call hard and soft and thin and thick, and mists and fogs. And so the young men become deified in the initiation, so that they are the ones who are the paradigm of the parallel world, where the gods are coming, giving rain to the earth. The young men are coming, bringing maturity to the village. Because during the initiations, they are required to bring loads of fruit. They've carried 60 miles with no food or water for 3 days. And that fruit takes 2 to 3 weeks to mature, and they have to mature it in 3 days. It's a magic event. Nobody knows how it works. But every time the young men dance back to the village, 60 mile, they're maturing their own souls inside that package. It's very elegantly adorned with orchids. Blue orchid, sparkling orchid, all over it. It hangs above your head like that. So when you walk, and you carry it over your head, weighs about 100 pounds. It's a long ways to walk with 100 pounds on your back. And their souls are maturing inside that case. They're being cooked into life. Cooked into life. Every step is cooking. You got to keep your eye on the prize. You're with 60 guys together. And you listen to the old man's flute in the front. You know? The song they play for that was like this. Pretty soon, spirit is entering your body. You're walking. The orchids are going. Their smell is intense. You're drunk on the flowers. No food. The people are waiting for you at the village. You hope. Thousands of people are waiting for you to village your hope. Your soul is on your back. And that back that you're carrying is your ancestors' bones. The heads of your fathers who came before you are like your own soul. They're maturing on your back. And they're full of seeds, and if they don't mature, the village will die. The whole village, old people, young, are depending on you to come in with the load. When you come finally, shivering, shaking, you can barely make it, but the song pulls you. The song pulls you. And you're shaking and you're shivering and you're cold and you're starting to wonder about yourself. You're pulling and pulling across that last huge hill, 1,000 feet up, and then you look down, 42,000 people are waiting for you. Ooh! Your eyes are streaming with tears. And the people's eyes are streaming with tears. And the chiefs are breathing huge sighs of relief. Because if you don't come in safe, it's their hides. It's their hides. I'm not kidding, them Indians aren't. You know, they're not going to write you up bad in the newspaper or sue you. And your head be on the post, and I'm not talking, you know, metaphorically here. So these young men are coming across and so proud of these guys. Because they're bringing our village back to life. They're carrying the village on their back. Their own souls are on their back. They're maturing their souls. And they come to this line, and the poor little things draw a big line, and then they got to wait for the old man's harangue for a couple of hours to tell them how much they love them coming into the village. And you know how it is. When you're young, you have to listen to those old man's bullshit, you know. And God knows I'm good at it myself. And I made them suffer, just like those old men made me suffer, because I knew that when I got pulled across that line, oh, the feeling is so great. So when those young guys get pulled across the line, the chief, my most honored position was I extend the staff of the village, which stands for the post, the pole, the branch that comes off the village trunk of the tree. And the young man is attached to it. For the first time in his life, he gets to do the thing he saw all his older brothers and all these other guys do. Grabs hold, and all the other men grab hold of me, and the whole village grabs hold of them. And we literally pull them across that line into the village, one by one. Not one is missed, not one is forgotten, not one is thrown away. And then all the women come. See, when you're a young man, you're afraid of some women. Some of the girls are very beautiful, and you can approach them. Some of them are very mean, and you can approach them. And some of them are very shy, and they won't talk to you. And so everybody is equalized here, because all the young women have been initiated. They're all full of their sparkly stuff and their headdresses, and they come with their incense burners, and they incense you as you come across the line, because you're holy. And when you come in, they come and they give you water, and they give you drinks, and they say, it's good to see your face again. It's good to see your mouth again. You returned over the mountains. You were able to take the hail of your thoughts. You were able to take the lightning of your desire to keep your mind straight. You were able to do this, that, and they go down this long list of what you were able to do, and they incense you, and they give you food and drink. And you come across that line dancing. And all the young girls stand in front, and they incense the hell out of you. All the boys, smoke rising, all these orchids bouncing in the air. Boys just breathing, sucking in that wind just to stay so they can get to the village, because it's still another mile or so, you know. And then the old ladies are surrounding everybody, and they have these big leaves with big fires and candles in them, and they're singing to push you forward. And all the old men are behind you pushing to make sure you don't fall down. And they dance you into the village. They grab you on the side, like this. The guy on each side. Whew. It's hard for me to talk about this. It's harder for me to talk about it than it is for you to hear it. Because I can't be there anymore either, you know. It's gone for me. Because I was branded as an outlaw.
We see how you love your village, Martin.
But I'm giving it to you. I don't bring it here to tell you I got this. I came to here because I ain't got it. And I'm giving to you. I give you my village best I can. And it's a little grain of plant, seed that I can give you. Anyway, the little chiefs, like I was, young chiefs, are walking looking like their shit is some kind of ice cream. An appropriate disdain, as we say, with the headdresses cocked to the side and their big staffs and spears and their big black blankets and all their sparklies, and they form a great big barricade in front, pushing all the evil away from these young men. And they dance into the village where the flute player comes trucking in at the front. And there, what do we see? Old men who couldn't make it up the mountain. They're prehistoric guys. You know, the guys you heard about that you didn't know were still alive. Honest to God, some of these guys I didn't know they were still alive. I was so happy to see them myself. And they told me it was the best one that was ever done since 1903 when they were chiefs. You know. And then the old ladies are there too. And they're so frail, and the young men come up and they say, good to see your face again. Good to see your mouth again. Good to see your shine again. You brought back the flower and the sprout to our village. It lives again, it stirs again, it jumps again, it plays again, it flies again, it dreams again. It promises to defend the flowering mountain, jadewater earth of our navel of the universe. And the young men, they just, by then, they almost collapse from so much beauty. And then the poor guys are dragged down into the initiation hall and isolated for 3 more days after a whole year. And they can't wash, and they just throw up mostly when they try to eat. A big feast is thrown for them, but all the food is given to their relatives. So they have provided for their relatives. By the event of their initiation, everybody in the village is fed. I used to feed 8,000 people a day for 2 weeks. I had to supply this. And this distribution of generosity that is occasioned by the young man's initiation, everyone can't wait for the initiation because the young man's initiation is giving food to everyone. They're feeding spiritually the whole village, and they're literally feeding the bellies because there's so many poor people there. They come to the feast and they eat, and people from other villages and other tribes. They come, you know, when there's initiation, everybody gonna come because there's food. And you have to live there. If they come, you have to put them up. And then after 3 days, the fruit is presented to the village as totally ripened. And it's a miracle in their eyes because this fruit takes 3 weeks. And then it's hung on a shrine, which they guard jealously. Now they've eaten, now they're strong, they got new clothes on, they look like they're initiated boys. And they stand guard. And then nobody going to touch that. Not that anybody wants to, but you know how it is. You have a projected enemy, you have to guard the village. You guard the village against a projected shadow. But it's not only a projected shadow, because then for 1 year they serve the village, guarding the elders, to keep them from harm. Because when they come over that mountain, as our youth come over the mountain when they have to, or when they can, the best way they can, instead of saying, those motherfuckers, they give me a lousy, shitty life, you know, everything's screwed up here, I don't have my Nintendo, and I don't got this, and I ain't got that. When they come back from the initiation, they say, those people are very short, and they're very poor, and they can't stand too well, and they're doing what they can, and here I come, I'm going to help them. So the great thing is, like they were talking about the Grail, the great question was, what ails you? That was the question for the Grail, right? What's the matter? What can they do for you? So you get that call from your young man, says, Dad, are you okay? There's a sign right there. Instead of saying, hey, I need more money. What's wrong with you? Are you all right? That's a sign of initiated person. Because the children, when they come in, they're no longer children. That's why when they take them to the initiation, which is mandatory in our village, or was once. When I was there, it was mandatory. No longer is, but it was then. And for centuries before it was. And the reason for that is that when the child is taken out, the young man is taken out, he's turned around to the village. And the whole village is looking, especially his parents were very sad about this because, you know, he's only going a half mile down the road, but into the initiation house. But they say, the young man says to his people, he says out loud, the first time he's probably ever spoken to a public. This is very important to be able to speak in public. He says, look at me well, he says. This is the last time you see me. Because I'm going down into the earth to be killed, and I'll sprout back again, and the face you see when I return, if I return, is not this face. When I return, it's a new person. So look well. And so they look, and of course everybody starts weeping. And the mother starts pulling out her hair, and the father starts beating the ground, says, don't take my child away. Because they're literally taking the child away because they're not going to see this child no more. Because when this child comes back, it's not a child. This is a whole other beast. So you see, when young men and young women start noticing each other sexually, time to get initiated. Because we can't have little kids humping in the closet. We can't have them making baby. It has to have persons that understand to bestow the beauty that has been bestowed upon them. And so this generosity of the village toward the young man and this generosity of the young man toward the village is a mutual reciprocity. What did you call it? Reciprocity. Reciprocity. Reciprocity of the village with each other, you see. And so the grandiosity of that youth is incorporated in the ritual beauty. So a lot of time when you know, the men and women in our village, they have different languages. This is one of the fascinating things about indigenous life. They have many words that are the same, but a great deal of the common usage words and a lot of the ritual words are entirely different words. So the men and women have to learn each other's languages. In this country, you have men and women saying different things using the same words. In our village, we have different words. So we know we're talking different languages. All right? Ain't no doubt about it. So one of the major preoccupations of a young man is to learn how to hear female words. You know them when you're a little boy because you've been hanging with your mama. But you haven't heard the high ritual words of women ever, because they don't speak them in public. And you haven't heard the high ritual words of men, because they don't speak those in public. So what you do Let's see, we got a volunteer over here. Did I show you this guys before? About the speaking? I don't want to bore you. Now come on over here. My good buddy. Okay. Okay, so then we're going to take this man over here. He has a good smile. I like this guy. I've been watching him all day. He's been feeding my heart. Okay, so you come over this side here. Okay, this is my initiate, one of my initiates. And I'm one of these hot shit chiefs with my big staff. For 1 year, I'm not allowed to talk to anybody in the village. So as this boy is getting initiated into the village community, out of the home and the clan system, mind you, what I'm telling you is that when you're young, you're with your family and you have a clan. You know what I mean? And your clan is everything, right? We're the best, you know? Those guys eat monkeys and lizards. You know, monkey lizard eaters, fuck you. Or what do you say? Fuck them. You know? You see, and the other guy say, yeah, you people eat dogs. And yeah, make some, turf war. But initiation is out of the family into the community. So you got guys that eat dogs, guys that eat lizards, guys that eat monkeys, all in the same boat. And no one will survive unless the lizard eaters, the monkey eaters, and the dog eaters pull together to get through. And so they realize when they get through the initiation, they're all clan brother. And that age set never can be broken. They're so tight, you couldn't put a pin through it. The guys I was initiated with, I cannot buy anything from them. I can't even walk the streets of the village happily without them dragging me in and feeding me all the time. That's how we say one gets love in the village. We say, it means it's no longer good for me to walk the streets of my village. Sounds backwards, huh? What it means is you can't get anywhere because everybody loves you so much they drag you inside to feed you. So you have to sneak around to get anywhere. That's how you say it. So the worst thing that can happen to a Mayan Indian is loneliness, being alone. That's their image of hell. Of being in a cold place where there is nobody or no nothing. Not a hot place. Hot place, you'd be with all your friends in Catholic hell. You know, but a cold place alone, that's a bad place. So the chiefs are banished from speaking with the people for 1 year. That's how they get initiated, why they initiate these guys. The only way they can speak to the village is through the initiate. So he becomes my voice. He becomes my speech. So he learns to talk just like me by repeating my words, and he learns to talk like these guys by repeating their words back to me. He becomes the translator. And when he speaks to a woman, he doesn't know how to speak to a woman per se, so I speak as I speak to a woman. He speaks that way. When she speaks back, he has to speak woman word in my ear, which he has never spoken in his life. You see? And so my voice becomes this young man, so I call him my little jaguar, or my eaglet, or my little pup. And then, of course, our bond becomes immense. And, of course, he's not related to me. It's illegal. It's not part of the system to be related. So the friendship there is immense, too. So say, for instance, we're walking along, and we got to borrow something for the ceremony, So when you're going out in initiation, you haven't been out of the initiation house for a while, We're cruising along, we got our staffs, and I'm being appropriately disdainful, and you too, you're acting like you got so much you can't even be bothered, You got to glaze your eyes, you got to walk, and all the women come running, and all the little kids say, they're coming out, they're coming out. Even you're just going out to borrow a log or something. Everybody runs to see you because this is a special event, like a moose sighting in Wisconsin, You know what I mean? I mean like a grizzly bear in Alabama. It's coming, And so here we are, we're shining. Of course, we're dressed to the teeth, And we're carrying our staffs. You got to carry your staff on your back, You got to look bad. You're walking along, we're going to this guy's house because we've got to borrow something. Because he has a very special thing. It's a very special... Hey, come on, stop walking. We got a very special, let's say we're borrowing an axe. Because axes are very handmade there by blacksmiths. And we get to this guy's house, so I don't look at him, you look at him. And I say, you're repeating the words after me, okay?
Right.
When I saw you,
I
thought the moon got lost.
I thought the moon got lost.
And was drunk.
I was drunk.
And was wandering the earth. But I was wrong. It was you. Your shining face. Going into your home. Which glittered. Like inlaid jade. Inlaid jade. When I saw you, I thought the sun got drunk. And was wandering the earth. Scorching everywhere. Looking for his lost son. But I realized it was you. Going into your house. Inlaid with abalone shells.
abalone shells.
When I saw you
When I saw you
coming at your feet,
coming at your feet,
coming at your branches,
coming at your branches,
you're flowering,
you're flowering,
you're shimmering,
you're shimmering,
jumping and playing,
jumping and playing,
old-time ways.
old-time ways.
We didn't know,
We didn't know,
but we were hoping
but we were hoping
if we brought
two
two of these shimmering birds
of these shimmering birds
called turkeys,
called turkeys,
that we would trade them,
that we would trade them,
possibly
possibly,
for the use
for the use
of your axe.
of your axe.
And that's how we borrow an axe. You see? And then you go ahead and say something to him, and then you repeat what he says to me. Okay. No, you keep standing to him, and I just listen. So you reply. Say whatever you want. Get with the style. Get with the style.
You may have the axe.
You may have the axe.
Definitely not. This must be Norwegian. Yeah, you get the idea, though. Yeah. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Yeah. That's great, you guys. So the idea, you understand, is that that's the way the young man gets to shine, because he gets to speak right through he becomes the ears and the mouth for both people that's talking. All the time, day and night, everywhere I go. He's called my little scout. The only people I'm allowed to speak to in the village is my wife and my kids. Even my father-in-law has to talk to this guy. And so he becomes really a good poet. And then there comes a time when he begins to translate. Toward the end of the initiation period, after a year or so, he begins speaking what he thinks the other person is saying in a grandiose way to me. And we allow that to happen. So pretty soon he knows how to speak. And pretty soon he's a poet. And pretty soon he can do these grandiose rhetorics, just like I can. And I've been translating these to English. You should hear them in Mayan. These are crude replicas. This is nothing. In Mayan we can really, in 5 words, I can devastate your soul with beauty. 5 words. And if you want to insult, lay out the machetes, man. I'm good at it. I know the genealogy and every hair-splitting, nasty aspect of everything, and I can lay it down with such beauty, you can't have a comeback. You'll want to be on my side. You'll sell yourself to my people. You want to be a monkey eater. You know what I mean? So then we have insult wars. We have to spar with insults. So, and it's funny, you know, all the people gather around, you know how men are fist fighting all the time, you know, and all that. We don't do that. That's only for women. Women fist fight in our village. Men don't fist fight. Women are better at it anyway, so. The men, what they do is they spar with words. So the young have to learn to spar with words. So you have all this hatred that you're afraid of, and all this violence that you're afraid of, and all of this crazy youth thing. To us, we love it. So we'll come up to Malcolm and we'll say, Shatemira? You know, and that means, did you eat earlier today? And what would you say?
I'd say, yes, I ate.
And then everybody would laugh and say you were defeated instantly. Because the word in mind, did you eat, it means, did you have sex earlier? And it also means, are you enjoying your life? So you have to make a comeback that hits all 3 of those points. So what you do, you say, yes, your wife is a wonderful cook. Boom! Dead! And then the whole village cheers. Even the old chiefs, when you come in, when the first time, like the little chiefs, they come into the big chiefs, they lay the shit on them. And if they don't have a comeback, they say, go back to the back of the line, start over again. Until you got those good comebacks with the old guys. They say, you haven't got the stuff yet. And I had so many good comebacks. Because I just was good at it, and the language. And so the whole thing is based on being able to speak. So much so that the women will go around to parrots. I used to have a trilingual parrot. He was great. He could speak English and Spanish and Mayan. He was a great one. He could tell by the way your clothes were, you know, as to what language to speak. Because the missionaries, you know, they come in, we used to call them the blizzard, you know, they come with all their white things and their little ties, and they're always blonde and 10 feet tall. And the Mayans, you know, they average 5'10", you know, 4'10". They average 4'10" height, so I'm like a giant. And like the missionary will come there like, they're all from Utah, they're big, you know. And they will come in and they always go to my parrot and they say, hi, how are you? Hi, you all right there, birdie? You know. And so the bird, whenever he saw somebody dressed like that, he would say, hi, how are you? Are you all right there, birdie? See? And then when the Ladino came in, which is a non-Indian Guatemalan, they dress kind of like we're dressed here. Not like me, but like y'all. And so I'm talking Alabama now. Like y'all. And I'm getting it. I'm going to get it, you know. Yeah, I'm going to get it. And so then they would speak Spanish because the guy would come in and say, oh, ¿cómo está lorito? ¿Cómo está? You know, and the little bird would say, ¿cómo está lorito? You know, and everybody, when the Mayans come, they spoke Mayan. So the dress were different. So every time somebody would come in, how would they dress? The bird would reply. So all the women thought this was an amazing poet. So they always come to the parrot, and they feed it ceremonial food, and they talk and they pray to the parrot, because the parrot is the old woman and the old man's speaker. And they would gather the crumbs of the ceremonial food in their shawls, very delicately, and they would mix it into a drink, and they would feed it to children that didn't speak well. And they would, in order to get the delicious words flying out of their mouth. So it's so important to the people, the speech. Doesn't mean you have to speak a lot, but you have to speak with your hand. You have to speak with your knees. You have to speak with your movement, with your belly. If you're talking from your head, they say you're a liar. And the way they say that is, he's just taking off his head. He's just taking off his head. But if you speak words that really pound in, they say, it's got a lot of ancient belly root words running around his stomach. That's what it means. It's an ancient ancestral word. It does not mean that you speak the words of the ancestor. It means that words are inspired by ancestral connection, and your own unique spin thrown upon it. So art lives in the improvisation upon what the ancestor have left you behind, in the spirit bones, the ancestral seed that sits upon your back. So adolescent is a time that the rest of the world is depending upon for them to grow and live and become alive. And so the first thing you do is have to steal your mother's cooking pot. You have to steal. And then you have to take it back without being seen. Then you've got to get high. You know, you got to get drunk. And the stuff they drink there is not this crap they drink around here. I mean, this stuff is made out of palm trunks. And they got all this other stuff they put in it, and you know all about God and everything. And you'll know it together, communally. And you drink till you pass out. You don't drink at will, you drink ceremonially. It's handed out in a special way. Like this morning, I get all ticked off because I said to save me some food. When I got to the line, there was no food. And so there was a guy there, he says, oh, you woke up late. And I said, no, I didn't wake up late. I was here talking with some men who want to talk. And so he said, well, that you have a very cynical attitude, he said to me. And I said, well, I haven't eaten yet. That's a mistake, you know, because when I eat, I'm fine. When I haven't eaten, I'm like an old jaguar. Doesn't matter what you say, you know, be cynical, goddamn, because I want my eggs. But, you know, I like to argue, so I was just making a show of it. But the point is that in the ceremony, this liquor is, you give it to an initiate and you say, there's 100 guys there, okay? There's 60 initiates and the rest of the chiefs, 40 chiefs maybe. He's got to make this liquor so everybody gets the exact same amount. How is he going to judge it when he can't even see what's in there? And it comes out exact every time. When he makes the intention that everybody's going to get some, it comes out exact every time. I've never seen it fail. So they drink this, and they drink it, and they drink it, and they cave, and they're called the Holy Wounded. And they're sick as a dog the next day. But they've been together in this ecstatic state, seeing God and speaking, and learning to pray. And so this goes on. All these things that are prohibited are used. Stealing, sparring, fighting, drinking, getting high. All of this stuff is forced upon you by zany old men who all year are telling you not to steal, not to drink. And here they make you do it. But they do it in ceremonial context such that when they come out, they've got it in their body, and then they become young warriors, and then as they become young warriors, they become sub-adults. And then after you become sub-adult, you become a semi-adult, and then you become an adult, and then you become an elder, and then maybe an echo person, as I spoke of last year. And so each layer that you get through, you're asked then to bestow upon those coming behind you the same thing that was bestowed upon you. So that it's never let go. It's never forgotten. So we lose one link, we lose a lot. We don't lose 1 year. We lose 20 years in one link. So these links got to be linked up here again with our hearts, because our hearts are like a chain of hearts, going back to ancestral earth, going forward. Because Mayan, there is no future. Future is simply a past that has the uniqueness of now put upon it. Do you understand what I'm saying? The word for death in Mayan is the word kamik. And the word kamik also means here and now, at this moment. Very mysterious. So there is no death as long as the ancestors are kept alive in the dead world after they're healed. Now, we're not talking about your ancestor that was mean, nasty guy. They has to be healed. Those are ghosts. We're talking about ancestors who are allied with nature. And all this nature that is providing is your ancestral body. All this thing has come from ancestors, from the belly root. And so this fruit falls upon, we eat it, so we give our ritual deliciousness and beauty that we have in our hands to give back. This is the one thing human has that's so magnificent, the way to speak, the way to make things with their hand. Tomorrow we'll be doing ritual, you'll be making things with your hand for the ritual. And you'll be doing the dance, you'll be doing the song, and doing all the thing that has to be given back. It's not just something. That's what we got, that nothing else really has. And that's the only thing we got that the gods want. Because everything else we stole from them. So that's why the hymn is called the Holy Thief. And so the bestowing upon spirit is resulting from what you learn when you're an adolescent during initiatory process. If you do not learn it, if it does not become bestowed upon you, you're going to get initiated anyway, right? Because life's going to initiate your ass. It's going to initiate you in arbitrary ways. Maybe painful ways, maybe confusing ways, maybe over a period of time, maybe a piece here and a piece there, maybe it didn't get finished till you're 90, maybe it never get finished. The belief is if you don't do your adolescence that way, that when you die, you don't really die. Your body dies and your spirit hangs around your grandchildren, so you see your grandchildren trying to carry you. And the most definite implication of that is if you see the kids getting high and drinking and being violent, that means they're infected with grandpa's ghosts instead of with the ancestral love of the ancestors who are blowing wind into the sails of the young and giving them life. They're carrying the ghost weight on their back instead of their own souls being cooked on their back. Now, maybe I'm beating dead horses here, I don't know. Am I boring you all to death? No. Just some of these guys. Huh? They're too nice to say anything. Well, you know, I'm probably at the end of my time. How are we doing for time? Okay, so now I'm going to take some question. Man, I can go on and on forever here. I'll saturate the hell out of you. It's been a long day for you, I know.
How do you heal the ghosts?
You don't heal the ghosts alone. You can't heal a ghost alone because the ghost will eat you. Huh?
How do you do it with the community?
Okay, it's a typical American thing. It's the how. Instead of saying, please, can you show me a way to do this?
Please, can you show me a way to do this?
Oh, that sounds much better to me. Sounds much better to me. And the first thing you do is have to bring a gift of intention to the person you want or to the spirit that you want to help you. First, you can't say, I'm going to be successful at this. We don't know. We may fail. And then we give a gift to that thing, and then we come and we make a ritual and we capture those ghosts. We capture those ghosts in gourds, literally. And then the shaman takes the ghosts out one by one and fragments them into their original piece and finds out what was the original wound, maybe even 300 years ago, that caused it to keep jumping generation into the grandkids. And then they send them back with what we call a canoe made of tears. Because we live on a lake, you see. And the world of the dead is on the other side of the lake. And so we send them across with canoes made of our tears. Something that is not mourned properly never leaves this world. It stays here as a ghost. And we say we give it oars and paddles made out of ancient songs. And we send it across ritually. And we have what they call funerals for these ghosts to send them back properly, to get them the hell out of here. And then we close the road so that they can't look back, because the ghosts need to be initiated in the dead, in the world of the dead. Because then the real ancient ancestors, the ones that aren't hurting anymore, they receive this like they receive young kids, and they initiate them in the spirit world. And when they're initiated, they turn them around as men or women, and then they help us from the land of the dead. And how we do that is a college course. But that's the Reader Digest version of it, okay? Yeah, I can tell you. And it's doable. I've done many times. It's a corrective ceremony. We like maintenance ceremonies. We don't like corrective ceremonies because they're always dangerous. It means to correct something that's gone wrong. But maintenance means you maintain all these things every year, like the initiations and all of these different things. There's 50 of them a year, this ceremony. And that maintains it so it doesn't go skew, but something always goes skew, so you have some corrective ceremony, you know. Yes, sir?
Well, say you suppose you got a 12-year-old boy living in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
He's going to a public junior high school.
Right.
How would you initiate him?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't initiate him. First of all, we have to find a way for you to get initiated. Because we cannot have you weeping in him what he don't get. In other words, if he gets initiated and you're not initiated, then how is this going to work? Because you're going to be jealous of him, even if he succeeds. If he doesn't succeed, then you're going to be mad at yourself. You see what I mean? Well, I hope so. That's what I would be anyway. Let's put it that way. I'm in the same boat. My kids can't go back to Guatemala to get initiated.
What's the point?
You see? So what I do is I'll just tell you what I do. Okay? So what I do is I have a series of men who I've worked with for years. Some of them you know. Maybe some of you know them. Orlin Bishop, Miguel Rivera, Didisi Sanyika. Some of these are African American, some are Native American, some are American American, some of them are Mexican American. And these people are involved in this sort of thing. And I send my sons there to do the 1 year thing, where they learn this, they learn that, they learn this, they learn that, and then the ritual goes on, and I can initiate them. Because I'm daddy, the whole idea is to cut the cord, right? And then when they come around the other side, which they're coming around, one of them is coming around now, they're getting ready to come around. They look at me as a little short fool, that's not God, and they want to be my friend. And it's a very, very relieving feeling. Well, you know what I mean. Many of you are a father, probably most of you. I'm probably the worst father in this room. as far as, you know, doing what needs to be done. Because I'm always bestowing it on everybody else, and where am I kid? So, the thing is, at Atlanta, or in Birmingham, or in Pittsburgh, or in Dayton, or New York City, or Philadelphia, or Oakland, it's the same issue. You're in a modern, domesticated situation, disconnected from your own ancestral traditions. I mean, old ancestral tradition. I'm not talking about recent ancestral tradition. And you're trying to find community, and you're trying to find an authenticated way to keep your kid out of danger. Okay, first of all, your kid will not be out of danger because initiation is dangerous. That's the first thing to understand. A lot of women come to me and say, can you initiate my 12-year-old boy so he doesn't end up like those guys? I said, no, they'll end up like me. Which is 10 times more dangerous than those guys. The only thing is I know how to use my danger. That's like that bottle we're talking about today. It's only dangerous when you don't know how to use it. So the initiation teaches you how to use it and how to serve something with it instead of, you know, using it to kill or to maim or to run away from. So you're young men, understanding that it's in this situation, the thing is not to be isolated, for one thing. You have to find other men, which is what you're doing here. Well, at least that's my understanding of it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it's to find other men in the same thing. The kid has to find other kids in the same thing, and little by little, something has to be set up whereby these young people can be taken and put in a situation where they learn the ancestral root of where they came from. Because in our initiation, what we do is we put them through the total history of their people. They relive it in 1 year. They learn how to make their fire by hand, to live naked, to eat grubs, and then slowly they come up to agriculture and to hunting. They go through all the suffering that the ancestors had to go through to make the culture that they have today. Just like here, you would probably have to put together a Buick, you know, or something, you know. I don't know what you would have to do, you know. You have to figure it out, man. It's your culture, you know. There has to be a grassroots thing. It can't be Martin tell you how to do it. I'm not telling you and superimpose on Mayan system. I'm just telling you what could happen. The inspiration of the smell of what we have can inspire a grassroots level of your own. But fathers should never initiate their sons. So let me make that clear. I've seen some groups that are doing that, and I'm really against that, because I haven't seen nothing good come out of it. So I'm trying to set up things for that of a certain number of people. I am doing initiations, but they're not, I don't want to put that out too public because it sounds too goofy. So I don't like the word either, and mine are very long, drawn-out things. This is not your Coke machine thing where you put in your 50 cents and get the initiation. I mean, you have to have godfathers, and it has to be an infrastructure of women, because the women's tears are so important for the young men. Without the women, no boys get initiated. I mean, this is just, you can't just do it. I mean, so you have to have community, and it has to be built. So that's the main question you asked, and it's the biggest question, and I'm trying to address it with my life, walking my talk. And we all have to do this somehow. But everyone has to be initiated. And if we will stand back, if there is anyone amongst you that can stand back and not be jealous of somebody else that gets it when you don't, man, I'll give you $100. I've never seen anybody can do it. So how you find a godfather? See, so the first step is to get that going. Once you get that going, the rest is easy. It has to be non-militaristic. It has to be oriented towards some really authentic thing. There has to be the language skill. Oh, so many things. So anyway, I don't think that answered your question, but that's what I had to say. Yeah?
In that context of the women's tears, the language,
Yeah.
can you speak to the risk and maybe the threat of danger of loss that is part of that?
What more specific loss, what are you speaking of?
Well, like
The tail.
you said, initiation can be very dangerous, and so that's not why
It is dangerous by definition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're taking it to the edge. In other words, if it wasn't dangerous, it wouldn't work.
If it didn't have a dangerous aspect to it, it wouldn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you could expand on that, please.
Okay, first of all, life is a dangerous proposition. The minute you're conceived, there's possibility of you dying. So, I mean, it's just plain dangerous. The idea of entitlement and safety is a very modern concept. You see, because we have what they call a democratic society with the inalienable rights to education and I don't know, whatever else they say, you know, all these things. And so you're going to get this, whether you like it or not. You see, you get entitled. In Mayan culture, there is no entitlement to life. So the minute you're born, they figure you're going to be dead within a minute. All right? The fact that you live to 40 years old is like this huge, grateful miracle. That you live to 80 years old, man, you are God. I mean, you become an elder, 70, 60 years old. Man, you're really something. You see, so the initiation that has death and illness, sickness, and possible loss as a stake is nothing new to them. It's something new to people here. And so they're always amazed by the kids trying to ram their cars into the wall. or trying to drink themselves to death, or getting broken bottles and wanting to fight, or tattooing up and doing turf wars. And the problem is when you get an AK-47 with that energy, well, you get a lot of death. Okay, well, if you don't have AK-47s, and you're in an initiation house and all these rowdies, don't get me wrong, I mean, 60 guys are hornier than hell for one whole year without seeing their parents or their girlfriends. And even when we tell them, I mean, these guys are rough. That's why you got to have strong men about 40 years old to ride herd on them. So the stakes are understood by the people. And the instant they go in there, that they could die doing that, but they're probably going to die in the cliffs anyway with their fathers carrying firewood, or they might get shot down, or they might starve to death, which is very common there, or die of typhoid or measles, which kills more kids than anything else you can imagine, or get TB and dry up, whatever. Okay, the thing is that it does in the initiation is that it congeals that. And so the loss you feel for your family, which is what I think you're probably talking about, in other words, you're cut off from your mom and you're cut off from your papa. The idea there is that you're not really cut off from them. Your relationship with them has to change. It becomes you get initiated into the community, become your family now, not just mom and pop. Therefore, the pressure is not on the one individuals, the mother and the father, or in this case, in this country, mostly, a mother or a father, or neither. It's not on them anymore. It's not in them anymore. It's in the community. The burden is distributed. See, so the loss is a gain. But it's not understood at that moment, so that's why it's processional. It has to be done ritually in a continual way so that it's not this huge hole. But you know how it is with loss, true loss, like the longing you have in your soul for God or a woman. If you leave that hole open, slowly but surely, instead of filling it with drugs and alcohol, TV, movies, and avocados, if you leave it open, it slowly fills with your own soul. And God is found through the vision of the eye in your belly. You see? And so the initiation does that too. It forces the kids to keep that hole open like a woman when she's pushing the baby out, which is the major female initiation for women. She has to breathe really shallowly while the head is crowning, just to wait so she don't tear. And then at the right moment, that focus, knock that head out. And then wait. They turn the shoulders and out come baby. And then wait. Come afterbirth. And it's the same for the boys. They have to get pregnant spiritually. They have to give birth to themselves spiritually. And so there's a lot of finesse that has to be taught. And that's what all being adolescent initiation is about, finesse. Adolescents don't have much finesse by nature, and so their finesse is being gained by their way. And the thing is, a lot of people talk about adolescents being this and being that. I see a lot of adolescents have a lot of finesse. They have a lot of beauty. They have a lot of intelligence, a great, incredible amount of intelligence, a great deal of quickness and brightness and alertness and creativity. And all of this thing, it is not lacking. What it is, it's so full, nobody else knows how to keep it in a bowl. It's not cooked right. Our bowl melts. It doesn't hold it. And so the idea is that the loss is really a vacuum that is going to be filled by themselves. So the childhood is dissolved into the body. A hole is made there that is cooked by the initiation, and then that fills with their beauty. And then they can come out of it without being killed by the process. So the idea is that your youth will kill you. It becomes toxic in your body unless you get inured and cooked by the initiation process that then doesn't destroy you, but then fills you. And then you become something useful that then bestows the gift that you have on those that are coming up and on the old that need your help, of whose help you also need. I mean, it's just all reciprocal. You see what I mean? So the losses, those are things that are felt, and those are where we come our indulgence of the moment. And so all the weeping has to go on. All the hair pulling has to go on. The chest pounding has to go on. All this has to go on. But then the resolution of the return to the village just makes it all worth it. And until you've seen that for the first time, you won't believe it. Because you won't trust and you won't have faith. But you see in the village, little kids see it every year. And say, oh man, I can't wait till I come over that hill. As they get closer to it, they start thinking about all the sweat and all the shivering and the one guy that didn't make it and so on and so forth. And so they get a little more scared of it. Plus, it's really nice to scream and get your milk. And all of a sudden, you're not screaming, you're not going to get any milk. You become the providers of milk. Sound like Jesse Jackson on here. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing in the community, because all I've heard up to this point is focusing on individualism.
Yes, sir.
And the community is very important.
Main thing.
Secondly, would you agree that one of the great tragedies of current America is that young men are being initiated by young men?
Absolutely.
That is, by gangs.
By gangs.
And they don't have any. They have a ritual.
Oh yeah.
But this is an extremely destructive ritual.
Amateurish.
And that tremendous energy is going to burn our goddamn cities down.
It's going to burn the whole place down, and that's why I'm glad you bring it up, man. I'm glad you bring that up. That's right on. Because it brings the social accountability of any spiritual approach. So you can't leave this sitting in your craw or in some book. It's got to happen because you say, well, this ain't got nothing to do with me. What's, 12 guys down in Oakland got to do with me? Or what's 12 guys down in Atlanta got to do with me or shooting up the streets? Got everything in the world to do with you, because what's going to happen is if we don't get this going with the community start a thing, it's going to spread and everybody is going to be in there, because that's the generation that's coming up. Those aren't them guys' kids. Them is our kids. And until you see them as your kids or our kids, then it's a them and us thing, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's an internalized war, since we don't have Russia to project it on anymore. I'll tell you a story. In Santa Fe, New Mexico, which everyone thinks is this idyllic place where all the yuppies go to, where the Indians there say where all the dead white people go to live when they die. I live there, It's a very so-called peaceful little sleepy town of 40,000 people. We have 32 shooting gangs there. And they all started up the minute the Soviet Union dissolved. We had, I think, 6 or 7 neighborhood gangs, which were these old Pachuco guys from the 40s, just neighborhood guys. They didn't shoot anybody, just had different outfits, and everybody knew them. They drove around in 57 Chevys. And then, when the Soviet Union broke up and the projected enemy that everybody had of them guys, all of a sudden it's internalized and it all trickled down to the youth. And we got 32 bloody gangs in 3 months after that. And so that's our kids. My kids were in those gangs. They're tattooed, the 3 dots. They were toting 45s. My kids. Mr. Peace here. All right? Because they were so angry about what happened to me in Guatemala, they're going to vindicate their fathers like all the other boys are doing it. Well, luckily now they're not doing that. Thank God. My boy Santiago, my boy Jorge, and all the other boys that I know, right now I'm going to say Tonito, Robert, Mario, Buddha, Lázaro, Jay, and Chucky, whose father was gunned down last Sunday. And Jay, whose father and mother were killed. And little Lázaro, and little Bebe, 12-year-old gang boy, killed 6 men already. I'm praying for this kid right now, right in front of you. I'm not ashamed to say this. I know this kid personally. I got them all out of gangs, and they're all over the place. I'm praying for them not to survive. There's a lot of death written on their heart. Yeah. And my son Jorge, and my son Santiago, who I love very much. And I was wishing that Jorge could be here with us. And interestingly enough, they both got a job and want to be in school. So what can you do? What have I done, And the other one doing so well that, well, I won't get into it. But anyway, the point is, all I'm trying to say, the community thing, they're going to burn the whole country down. Right. And it's not them, it's our kids. All right? And so we don't need that. What we need is to be with these guys. And I tell you, I've been with some of these real tough guys, and people say, oh my God, By the end of the day, all the beepers and guns and knives were all in the corner. And we're all together, and I asked this kid, I said, what would you want if I could give it to you right now? They didn't ask me for cars and cocaine and girls. They asked a place where we can come like this, where it's safe, where we know we won't get shot at, and where we don't have to shoot, where we can talk to men that are older than us and each other and air our differences without having to punch. That's what they told me. These are gang kids. These are guys that have shot people. They've been high and crack for, since they're 8 years old. So I'm telling you, what you said, that's right. I sound like a preacher here. Listen.
I've been seeing those 3 dots for years.
Mi vida loca stands for.
Mi vida loca.
You have to study
My crazy life.
It's a gang thing. It means I die before I'm 18. My kid has tattooed on his arm. Another one here.
That for years.
Just had him removed. But did you ever read the poetry of Luis Rodriguez? Get with it. Read that. Tell you all about it. It's a good man. He's a guy who used to be involved in gangs in L.A. and now he's involved in getting kids out of gangs in Chicago. He's a very, very good poet. Mi vida loca is the name of one of his books. So this all these gangs, they have their own language, man. They have their own writing. They have their own names. They're inventing a culture. It's a funky culture and a subculture and an amateurish culture, but they're trying to invent a culture. And I hand it to them on that level, And if you give them a chance to be with culture, they take it. They just eat it like candy. I mean, some of the guys are goners. Don't get me wrong. You can't be naive about this. Blow your head off as soon as you look at it. But some of the guys not. Just like us. Yeah.
So you said first we must become initiated.
Well, we have to deal with the issues of our uninitiatedness. Let me put it that way.
So please, Martin, how can we do that?
Well, this once again, the thing about that is, first of all, I am a very limited human being. All I know is ritual. My life is ritual. So I cannot give you all the answers to that. My approach to that would be to slowly and surely get a group of men together in different places where you have elders specifically elders, and you have youth, and you have middle-aged men. And where you get together and you slowly form groups that stay cohesive. And then little by little, we get to where we can do ritual that becomes cohesive and not cultish and not unauthentic, that's really allied with the earth, and get close and ask the spirit itself what to do. And I know that sounds very nebulous to you, like, what does that mean? But it comes in dreams. Until you can get connected with the spirit, you can't get initiated. Because initiation is not just for people, it's for this, the existence of all the created things in this earth, in the world, and things I don't even know about probably. So to get initiated, everybody's clamoring for it, but you can't obtain initiation. Initiation, once again, is not a commodity. And initiation, once again, is not an end, it's a beginning. That's what I call it. To initiate something, you begin it. You start it.
You say it's indigenous.
Indigenous. The indigenosity, you have to search for the indigenosity. And to me, the most easy way to search for that is to get inside nature. Now, I don't want you to confuse initiation of shamanic initiation with initiation into manhood, because these are two entirely different ball games. So when I try to speak clearly about that. So I'm not trying to say that you can get initiated, all of a sudden you're a shaman. This had nothing to hell to do with that. Now my initiation to shaman then, to being what you guys call shaman, that's very intense. You talk about danger. All the other guys that were initiated from my teacher died except me. I'm the only one that lived. There were three of us. So I mean, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, I just want to get that straight right here, because sometimes the hunger gets so great the vision gets confused. But we're talking about, you're talking about with the manhood thing, the adolescent thing. We cannot obtain this. It has to be grown from a grassroots level by you, not by me. And God knows I love to just give it to you. And God knows I've tried to do corrective initiations on a limited amount of people, and I've had pretty good results. But there's not enough of Martin to go around. But there is enough of you to go around. You have to develop it in your own communities with each other on a base. And you have to study a lot, and you have to look a lot, and you have to be really patient, and you also have to be willing to step aside and let those that need initiation right this minute get it, instead of being greedy for yourself. And that's a hell of a bill for me to lay on you. I know that's a very cruel thing to say, but man, I don't know what else to tell you. Because we got these guys here that's seen some age. They got some ideas too. And they've seen a lot of things, and another reason they got white hair. There's a reason for that. They didn't get, I mean, in our village, you got white hair, man, you got there for a reason. You know something that the rest doesn't know. So you got to trust in some of these elders. Not all of them. Some of these elders, just because they're old, they don't make them an elder. And some people that's young, they're like elder. I'll give you another story. It doesn't come from my village. Maybe you can identify with this. To have initiation, you have to have elders. Without elders, we're lost. And to have elders, that means you have to have a cultural continuity that comes back from a long time. And there are men of substance in this earth, and women of substance. I know them personally, many of them. Tell you a story about a chain gang. This is told to me by a man from Georgia, named Ralph Steele. Ralph Steele, he's from Gullah, people off the offshore islands there in Georgia. He speaks Gullah tongue. Very magnificent way of talking. I really like it. And Ralph's great-grandmother, a very religious Christian woman. They have a church there which was the center of all their activity on the island. I mean, this is what everything was. All his relatives were members of this church. And along come a chain gang one day. You know, they were all mostly African-American men. They weren't breaking rock in this case. They were cutting weeds, apparently. And there was one of these guys, the stereotype of the guy was watching over the warden with the shotgun, you know, opened up over the shoulder with his little smoky hat on, and, you know, standing there watching these poor men in suits and chains cutting the weeds along the side of the roads. And they'd be singing those good chain gang songs, which always reach so deep into your heart, you know. Hey down, Miss Rosie, lay my burden down. Hey now, Miss Rosa, he coming to the governor, man, gonna let me go. And going along like that, this chain gang guys, the chain make the rhythm. So this man's great-grandmother come out the house, saw the man going by. The big old, you know how hot it gets around here. This is in July. She come out with the big thing in those days, those old glass thing they have of lemonade she made. Cold. You know, in those days, cold, it's a little harder to get in the islands. Come along, and he walked right past that warden, and the warden snapped the shotgun shut, like that, because the woman is the black woman, African-American woman, Gullah. She come by, and she pour a glass of lemonade for each man. Says, son, do your best, stay out of the heat, keep your patience. I won't forget you. Each one should give a lemonade. How many men? I don't know the story, don't remember, but there were several in the chain gang. And then when she was done, she went to the warden and gave him a lemonade. And he drank it. And she says, boys, try not to work too hard, but I won't forget you. And went back into her house. Now, it took a lot of courage for a woman like that to walk past a white guy with a shotgun to a bunch of guys in the chain gang. But that's an elder. In my book. That's an elder. It's not somebody performing miracles. It's someone that knows how to jump on it when it has to be done. And the reason the elder gets that from is from his adolescence. The elder gets that from the spark of jumping to the... from when he was a young man. Knowing what it takes to be, but with focus. When you're young, man, you're going to jump to it. I mean, you know, you're going to jump to it, whatever it is. We're going to jump. We're going to do it all at once. I don't want one woman. I want a million of them. But you only got one penis, you know. And so, but when you get a little bit of age on you, if you've been through the initiatory process and you get to be the eldership, then what you know is you pick your battles, like Geronimo says. You have to win before you fight. And I say, okay, you count your calories as the coyotes do. They say, well, to kill a jackrabbit is going to take as much energy as it takes to catch it, plus a little more. But this mouse, on the other hand, I can get that. So the elder has finesse, has focus, but the same Hopalong Cassidy instinct of the adolescent. To know to jump on the deal when it has to be done and choose his battles well and give the gift where it can be best grown so that it produces seeds. I did a ritual in Minnesota. It was in September. And at the end of the ritual, there was a very beautiful part where we had buried the heads of our fathers as squashes, and then we pulled them out as food. But I kept all the seeds secretly. I didn't tell nobody. And I put them in a big bear, skinned bear's paw. And I passed them out, and the guys reached into the bear paw and pulled out the seeds that they didn't know how they got out of the ground. And miraculously, half the men started eating the seeds, and the other half put them in a medicine bag. And I said, do not eat your seeds. Plant your seeds. That's the difference between an initiated person and an uninitiated person. Is the initiated person keeps the seeds, plants them, and distributes the fruit of those seeds and keeps the seeds. The uninitiated person eats their own seeds and then they have nothing left. You dig what I mean? So don't eat your seeds.
Thank you, Martin.
Spread them. Thank you.